us too hard and cry during spin? And she said, yeah. And I was like, all right.
Okay, there we go.
We are all losing our minds
Together. Okay, so are you ready to go back with me to the early 2000s?
Yes, I love it there. On Alter Ego, we explore the intersection of faith and fear, where the sacred meets the psychological and belief shapes culture. We discuss sensitive topics involving trauma and belief systems through an educational, ethical lens. Our intention is to bring understanding, openness, and curiosity, not sensationalism. Listener discretion is advised.
There really are no content warnings for today. I'm like trying to contemplate. I've rolled around a couple different ways to introduce this to you, so I was going to see whichever one felt good. But have you ever been to the Bodies exhibit?
No, it was on our list, I think, one of the last times I came to visit you, wasn't it? And we didn't get to it or something. What was on my list was somebody, I think maybe it was on my list with my ex-wife the first time we went to Philadelphia.
It was on a list.
It was on a list
somewhere.
So I said the city you live in.
I don't care. It's fine. Okay. So one of my most formative memories is walking into the Bodies exhibit for the first time.
How old were you?
Around 8.
I feel like that's too young.
Let's say the oldest I was 10. Youngest I was 8.
Okay.
It felt like I was 8.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
At that point in time, I don't think I had any sex education. I don't think I knew anything about anatomy. So walking into this Bodies exhibit is seared into every part of my brain, I think.
Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
Even taking away how some of the exhibits are actually set up and getting into that like sort of sexual space, do you recall between 8 to 10 how you felt about your insides?
No, I wasn't even cognizant that I had a body at that point, I don't think. I think I was into my early 20s before I was like, oh, my brain and my mind are controlling a body that I can feel. You know what I mean? I think so much of my religious trauma forced this dissociation away from my body. So I didn't even really have a relationship with my body until I was in my 20s. So especially whenever I was a kid, no.
Okay. Because I know that even as an adult, I can't talk about like veins and stuff too much without getting really nauseated and overwhelmed, even though they're just, it's in us. Like muscle and stuff like that doesn't bother me. It's more of the little tiny minutia stuff that I'm like, okay, it's too real.
I don't think that you would enjoy the Bodies exhibit.
Honestly, you're probably right, but I still want to go.
You might change your mind after.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to put that on you. You go ahead and go if you want.
Well, if I go, I'm going with you. So
today is going to be an exploration of the Bodies exhibit, where it came from, how it came to be, the ethical complications of it, what the inner workings of all of the ethical concerns and considerations, how the bodies got there.
Because I have a question, but I'm going to pin it.
Yes.
For later.
It might be answered. So
I bet it will. So, okay. Oh, all right. Cool.
So this is what we're doing today. It's a little bit different. There is a few different directions we go in today. There's, of course, these ethical considerations. There's religious and spiritual considerations. There's also a lot of question marks. And I'm going to break down and differentiate. We're getting into some speculation here. So a lot of today is going to be getting super curious, just like we always do. But there is a lot of speculation. Very little is proven. Some things have been proven. Some things are very much so up in the air. And so there will be a lot more probably questions today, as we're used to, than answers. And there's a lot of things that are heavily like implied. There's been a lot of journalism around this. There's been some discovery and a lot of attempts, perceivably, from what I understand, for things not to be obviously revealed. So we are really tapping into when you're going to an exhibit. There's multiple, by the way. So it's not just one. I'm going to break down, there's a couple different versions of the bodies exhibit. So when you step into these spaces, are we learning about life or are we witnessing exploitation and death?
I know that's like a rhetorical this early on,
Mhm.
but it really did make me go,
So we're going to start with the origins of, do you have any idea what might be used to preserve these bodies?
Well, oh, huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, none of them are wet specimens, so it couldn't be any sort of formaldehyde.
Are you open to
Are
looking
they
at
mummified?
photos? Are you actually, I need to look up the definition of mummification because it might be a type of mummification.
Wouldn't it have to be?
I guess so.
And yes, I'm open to photos.
Okay. So, I'm going to send you a couple photos.
Watch, you'll send me the first one and I'll be like, I am closed to photos.
I'm going to pick one that's less veiny and more muscly. So, here we go. This one's got like a good.
I like that out of context. That would make a really great viral clip. That will be the intro to a TikTok. Just wait.
That will be a TikTok. Okay, so I just sent you that link. It might take its time coming through. So right on the top end, when you open it, there is a person in a pose.
Yes.
That is a real body.
They're about to shoot like a bow and arrow.
Positioned in that way. So the process.
Why do they just have the brain like placed on top of its head? Not
Yeah,
important to the story, but it's just sort of strange.
Well, it actually is, because depending on what exhibit you go to, the one that I went in, it did follow this progression, but it is cool the way that they present the exhibit, and that it starts off skeletal and then it goes through each, like the first room is skeletal, the second room is all veins, the third room is all organs, the fourth room is all muscles. This is just an example, but it pieces and parses out the body in separating. So that feels also very important here, is that not only are they preserving these bodies, they're taking pieces of the body and separating it all out and dispersing it. So keep that in mind too, as we're kind of like navigating this. Is not like they're preserving the body and keeping it all in one place. It's getting really spread out and lots of question marks.
And could like wind up with a different body potentially?
Potentially. There is no,
I mean, I guess they could also just like scrap it, but
yeah. And there is no information that can be found about the specific process itself other than the preservation, like how they take everything apart, how they, how do you get all of the veins separated from all of the bones and all of the, right? Like there is no continuity around how they treat each body and how they do it.
I have two questions for you. One, if you were one of these bodies, would you rather they throw away the stuff that they didn't need to use or put it on a different person?
Those are my only two options.
Those are, yes.
Well, if it's getting thrown away, where does it go? Like, is it getting am I getting incinerated or am I going in the dump?
I mean, ultimately, it's all the same.
See, I'm like, if I get incinerated and spread out into the ocean, yeah.
No, they're not like doing a ceremony for you. They're just saying like, this is biohazard. Yeah.
I would rather be like combined with someone else's tissue, I think.
Okay. So following that thread or that vein, do you think that all of these bodies exhibits are super haunted?
When you walk in, it definitely feels like there are people in there. So I don't really know what that means. I mean, there's obviously people around you, but it feels different than walking into an art museum. Like it just feels, I still remember the way it felt. Like to this day, I was like, oh my God. I was like nauseous. I like physically felt sick. I had to go to the bathroom at some point. Like it was like a whole thing. We were in there for like 2 hours. I mean, it takes a long time to get all the way through. So the process of preserving these bodies and these specimens and all the different pieces is called plastination. Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
So Dr. Gunther von Hagens, he's German, he invented plastination in 1977. And the process is that it replaces all the bodily fluids with polymers to permanently preserve tissues. So you extract all that water and you implement the polymer.
Interesting. Why did he need to do that?
I don't know, but I'm going to send you. Okay. I kind of contemplated this and I was like, look, again, we talked about this in the first episode. I'm not one to bring people's looks into things, but when I pulled up a picture of this man, this feels wildly important. Also, before you say anything,
he looks like a. It's okay.
I was like, wait, hold on. Let me tell you, before we go there, he has what's called as, I believe it's pronounced hemophilia or hemophilia. It means it's from the ancient Greek origin root word of meaning blood, is a mostly inherited genetic disorder that impairs the body's ability to make blood clots, a process needed to stop bleeding. This results in people bleeding for a longer time after an injury, easily bruising, and increased risk of bleeding inside joints or the brain.
Oh, like a hemophiliac. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in mild cases of the disease, they may have symptoms, but only after an accident or during a surgery.
Yeah.
And bleeding into a joint can result in permanent damage. Well, bleeding into the brain can obviously result in a lot of other serious issues. So I don't know if that affects the way that he looks, is what I'm saying. So
I
that
don't think that it does. What I was going to say is that he just looks like one of the bodies on exhibit already.
He looks like a preserved. I mean, it is so. And here's the thing: he's still alive. He's 80 years old, so he's still kicking. He's still around. He probably looks a little bit like that. It's kind of interesting that when I put a picture, I was like, bro, you kind of look like you're preserved.
You kind of look preserved. And also, I think if he knows that he has this sort of unique blood issue from a young age, I can imagine he was probably very curious about that his whole life. So it makes sense that he would wind up making something that goes into something, whatever. That's all fine and good. I'm just saying that he would be a really stellar before photo for a plastic surgeon of like, we did a little cheek filler here. We did a little lip filler here. We did a little lip flip here. We did a brow lift. That's all. He's got, it's just
Yeah. It's unsettling. He's like
he's featureless.
Seems a little unsettling.
He's just featureless.
He is featureless, and we may feel a little bit. I don't know how to even. It's like I'm like towing the line of like, okay, I fully believe that people's evil manifests in their body, and is that a representation of what's going on? Because as we get into like who he is and what he may or may not have contributed to, or it's just questionable here. I know I have said the word evil. I don't necessarily know or believe, or do I think that this man is evil? I don't know. Potential? Sure. Up for interpretation is what I'm saying. So we're going to get a little bit into, actually, would you like to know about him now or later?
Tell me now.
Tell me now. Let me find his little section here. Okay. So von Hagens, he was born in 1945 in the what's now known as the then German territory that's now Poland. He studied medicine at the University of Jena in East Germany. He was arrested in 1969 for trying to flee East Germany, imprisoned, and then released in a political prisoner exchange in West Germany in 1970.
Oh.
So he continued on his medical studies once he was released, and he worked as an anatomist at Heidelberg University. So in 1977, he develops plastination, which we talked about as that removal of the fluids, and you introduced these polymers. So the polymers are a combination of silicone, epoxy, and polyester. So it not only replaces the bodily fluids, it also replaces the fats. So you're removing the fats and the fluids, replacing it with these the silicone, epoxy, and polyester. It creates a dry, odorless, long-lasting anatomical specimen.
Like people jerky.
And that's what I have in the margin. People jerky. No, I'm just kidding.
People jerky.
That's actually hilarious. In 1978, he flies the first patent for plastination to Germany. In the 80s, he begins producing plastinated anatomical models for teaching. Its origin is teaching, and in 1993, he founds the Institute for Plastination, or the IFP, in Heidelberg. And in 95, he debuts Body Worlds in Japan. This is the first public exhibition of plastinated human bodies. It was 1995. So then, later on, the mid-90s, early 2000s, what was marketed as the intersection of art, science, and education comes this, I guess, really, actually, how do I want to do this? So he debuts Body Worlds in Japan, and then mid 90s to early 2000s, it goes global.
When he just like showed up with this exhibition where people just like, yeah, no follow-up questions.
Yeah, I mean, the questions don't come until the 2000s.
That's so crazy. And I don't mean it as a suspicion. I just think I would have been like, oh wow, okay, so if cadavers are donated, they don't just go to a school, they can go to you. How did that happen? Like I just would have, I have curiosities.
So part of this process, he does share that, or he does claim anyways, he says that he had over 20,000 volunteers after he developed a body donor registry, and he styles himself and presents to the public that he is known as Dr. Death.
Like Dr. Kevorkian?
Look, I guess. And this late 90s, early 2000s, space, it is marketed as educational and artistic exploration of anatomy. So we haven't quite gotten over into the exploitation question mark of it.
I also, right? I wonder, I don't expect you to have an answer for this. I just am curious. When people were signing up for this registry, if he was pitching it that same way, I would have maybe needed to highlight the artistic piece and been like, how artistic? Like,
well,
what do you mean?
Really, the artistic interpretation comes from the way that the bodies are positioned, the way that the bodies are presented. There's this description when at face value and without thinking any further, without asking any questions, it's like, wow, this is a beautiful artistic display of the human body. They're put in these beautiful poses, sometimes like in like different settings. There's like, I specifically remember this one sitting down playing chess. Like there was two bodies.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Playing chess. Yeah,
it's like, yeah,
and it's like that kind of thing, or like, one standing up and doing something, and this one that you saw that's like an archer, right? It's like, so without asking any further questions, it's like, oh, this is this artistic, almost museum-like experience.
Or it will be, because at the point that he already had 20,000 people, he had he already done the first one in Japan or no?
So the way that the timeline is laid out is that he presents the what is it called? The patent for it. And then there is no detailed information as to exactly what that process looked like. It's just like, okay, Body Worlds is there. So he does the Body Worlds exhibit solely in Japan. And then in the next like 7 years, he then has enough to then present it worldwide. Okay. Yeah. We're going to get into a little bit later of where did all these bodies come from? Which I'm sure is one of your main questions.
I have a few, but like I said, I'm trying to like wait until they're context appropriate.
We'll probably get there. So some early red flags, as you're already tapping into, are that investigations revealed that von Hagens had received cadavers from China and Russia. Okay, so from 2002 to 2004. There's some years that are getting perked up a little bit.
Famously a little sketchy at times.
It's a little sketchy, yeah. So in 2004, 7 bodies were returned to China after von Hagens admitted that they may have been executed prisoners.
I'm sorry.
Yes. And then Parliament.
God, can you imagine the postage on returning a body?
Can you imagine? Also, I'm sure that polymer is much heavier.
It's got to be so heavy. It's going to be so heavy. Yeah. You're just on that flight where they're putting a cadaver, and what you don't know is that it's like fully mummified, filled with plaster and polymer.
And it's like playing golf. What the fuck?
He was already in a sitting position, so they just put him next to you on the flight.
Look out the window, and there's just like an encasing that's the shape of a man, like set up to with a T. It's got to have the golf clubs. Like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, so Parliament starts investigating over illicit body sourcing. Like, where the hell are these bodies coming from? It's a little sus. What's happening? This is weird. Von Hagens claims that those bodies were never used in exhibitions. So
yeah, probably because they were not usable.
He just cut that part right out. Okay. So, even with claimed consent programs, Body Worlds demonstrated how commercial curiosity can blur medical ethics. As I was looking through everything and I realized, okay, there's Body Worlds, there's Bodies the exhibition, there's this other body, right? Like, how I was like, wait, not only do they have almost the same exact names, it's the same stuff's happening. What's going on? How are they connected? Did a little digging. So there is substantial evidence that the two exhibitions, Body Worlds by von Hagens and Bodies the exhibit by Premier Exhibitions Incorporated, share a common origin story and supply chain entanglement. Even while they officially present themselves as completely independent, here's what we know and suspect with the caveats of uncertain documentation.
Okay.
So, as you can guess, none of this is really well documented. As it really just helps the cause.
Yeah.
So, here's what we do know. Von Hagens invented plastination in the 70s. We got that part down, right? In China, von Hagens set up a branch of his plastination operations around late 99, early 2000, 2001. According to sources, one of his associates was Su Hongjin, who managed plastination activities in China. Okay. So Su later established his own company called the Delane Hoffen Biotechnique Company Limited in China around 2002 and began supplying plastinated human remains to other clients.
Okay, to be fair, I don't know how anything works in China.
Sure.
But in the US, if you want your body to be used like in a medical program, you have to yes, like you would sign a registry, just like these people allegedly did for him. But it has to be an accredited, usually like a school or something. Yep. So it sounds like he was just some guy who marketed himself well and people just signed up for how he's pitching it. I'm sure that you're going to get to some other pieces, but in terms of, it's not like he said, and then I did whatever paperwork I had to do to become accredited or.
Oh no, there's just to go ahead and answer your question, there is no clarification. We don't have any answers around that, and there is no further documentation or any kind of information around that process.
Yeah, which means I think that he couldn't have, because there would be record of any of that work, and we know that he's not a medical school. So
right.
So strange.
So none of that ever gets. There's only more and more allegations is where this is going. Yeah. There's never any. It all is looking pretty suspicious. There's nothing really saying that he's
it sounds like
the cause.
It sounds like body trafficking.
Yes, and that is exactly what my interpretation of all of this is.
Okay.
So we've got lots of different, as you've noticed, there's a lot of different names here. There's Premier, there's there's Limit Corporation. Limited,
it sounds like shell companies.
Yeah. So Premier Exhibitions began Bodies the exhibit in 2005. The is very important here. Sourcing specimens from China via Hoffman or an equivalent supply chain. Wired and other investigative sources claim that in 2001, under Van Hagen's direction and Sue's management, the factory began. Meanwhile, Sue set up his own secret plastination factory, which ultimately became Hoffen. Van Hagens found out and expelled Sue. Sue took Bodies the exhibition on the road. So they had there's a little tea, a little drama going on. They split ways.
Interesting.
So a legal filing states that Sue and Hoffen preserved bodies and quote unquote sold them to Premier Exhibitions, the operators of Bodies the exhibition. Here's what is suspected but cannot be fully confirmed. Okay, this is all
alleged
speculation and alleged. Yeah. So it is suspected that Van Hagen's departure of his Chinese associate Sue was influenced by concerns over sourcing ethics. Okay, so there's some concern there. So these concerns included executed prisoners and unclaimed bodies. Some sources claim that Van Hagens fired Sue after discovering this unethical sourcing. Another thing that is suspected is that Bodies the exhibition is effectively a spin-off or successor model that uses the same plastination supply chain that Von Hagens originally developed, albeit under different corporate branding. So this is the same. Yeah, exactly. Another suspicion is that this is so funny. It's like a lot of different words. Another suspicion is that the supply chain of plastination cadavers in China was overlapping personnel, facilities, and networks linking von Hagen's business, Hoffen, and Premier's exhibit, making the boundary between independent exhibitions way less clear. So it's all enmeshed, is what is suspected.
This is far too niche of a thing for there to be so much confusion about like ownership, supply chain, who's working where.
Right? It's just like, oh, I don't know.
This is not a McDonald's.
Sir, this is Burger King.
This is not a Dollar General where there's one on every corner and it's like, oh, I don't remember who manages that one.
Yeah. This is one in its own. Right. Another suspicion is that Hoffman and the Chinese factory have exploited a gap in legal oversight, especially around unclaimed bodies, to supply both Body Worlds and Bodies the exhibition, and possibly other shows. For example, this is a quote from a friend of, this is someone who's stating that this is like contributing to these alleged claims, right? When von Hagens expanded his business to China, he met strong resistance. Finally established, after that, Su told him only unclaimed bodies would be used. Su's company then collaborated with the US-based Premiere exhibition. So this is only a section of someone who allegedly overheard these things and knew these things.
Do you know how long a body has to go unclaimed for it to be considered
Girl, you
unclaimed?
you are transitioning beautifully. One of the ethical considerations here is, and let me be this is based off of my memory, and I'm going to double check because we're not quite there yet, but this is the perfect segue, is that in China specifically, an unclaimed body has 30 days to be claimed.
Wow.
Destination has to occur within 48 hours of the person passing.
What?
Yes. So that's a huge consideration here that defies all it's like that's just logistically impossible for you to be making ethical decisions. Thoughts?
Only that I have dyscalculia and I still know that math ain't mathing.
So let's look at what we know so far. There are several different parties. We have Gunther von Hagens. He is tied to Body Worlds, right?
Okay.
We have Su, and he's associated with von Hagens in China. And then he later founds the Hoffen company.
Yeah.
And then we have the company that he establishes, the Dalienhofen Biotechnique, where the plastination factory in China is partial supplier of the cadavers. And then we have Premiere Exhibitions and Bodies, the exhibit. Okay. So part of the reason why it's so important that there is this independent claim, right, is that Premiere denies formal affiliation with Bodies or with Body Worlds. And that's the one that opened in 95. Okay. The exhibition is similar, though it's completely not affiliated. It's like, no, we're not affiliated at all. But the overlap in technique, obviously, as you're talking about, the supply chain and the personnel suggest that it's much more than just coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And von Hagens has
gaslighting us.
Yeah, they're totally gaslighting everybody. Yes, exactly. So von Hagens has publicly distanced his franchise from Bodies, the exhibition, after the French court in 2009 shut down an exhibition unrelated to him, but similar, and von Hagens said that it was completely unaffiliated. Oh, seems like a lot of dipping and dodging, if you ask me. But again, this is something that I'm kind of picking up. So here's some, ethical investigative angles and connections, which we've already kind of tapped into a little bit. So if the supply chain serves both exhibitions, then ethical lapses in sourcing obviously are not isolated to the one brand. All of the risk is completely systemic, as we obviously are observing. The spin-off model allows for quote-unquote branding as a separate company while benefiting from the original technique, administrative, and personnel infrastructure, complicating the accountability. And it's no surprise to us. There's a lot of people, I could count even just 2 or 3 off the very top of my head that I have been involved with, that I have left companies because they do shit like this. The shells, right? They change their name constantly. They evade accountability constantly, whether it's legal, financial, or both.
Yeah, steal cadavers.
Yeah, traffic bodies.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah. So the ambiguity of provenance becomes harder to trace. So if one's body supply chain services multiple exhibitions, tracing consent becomes obviously shared risk, as we're very well aware. So for investigative purposes. The connection provides this narrative of how scientific and medical technique became commercialized and proliferated into multiple tours, and how oversight failed in multiple different areas. So there's just absolutely no oversight here. So here's what we can say with like a lot of confidence is that von Hagens' network in China under Sue was foundational supplier of plastination and cadavers, right? We know that for sure. So the same Chinese suppliers, right, they supplied all of the bodies to premier exhibitions for bodies of exhibition, and bodies of exhibition thus inherits, knowingly or unknowingly, a supply chain with serious ethical concerns that were first exposed in relation to von Hagens, right?
Yeah.
And then he publicly acknowledges the risk of executed prisoners' sourced bodies in 2004 when he returned the 7 to China. So it's like he already claimed that he understands the problem and returned the bodies. So he admitted that he understands that that's a huge issue, right?
This is such uncanny valley of running a business.
I know.
Where like these are real things that he's saying. Like, yeah, so sorry. I do recognize that these may have been like tortured prisoners or something. So I'm going to give their bodies back to you. It's like, this is a real thing that's being said.
Just the 7 of those were. The rest of them are fine.
And also, no, you're not allowed to plastinate bodies. I'm the only one that does. Like,
yeah.
Very niche business model.
Very niche business model. So here's, of course, all the unclear stuff, right? So we have no idea what the exact terms between Hoffman and Premier Exhibitions. We don't know anything about the pricing, the origin of the bodies, or the shipping and export documentation. Nowhere to be found. The precise timeline of when Sue left von Hagens' company and set up Hoffen, and the structural relationship, quote, if there's any, between the two of them. Whether von Hagens' company continued sourcing from China via Dalian after Sue's departure, or whether it was a restructured supply. So yet again, it's just all question marks. And then the chain of custody for specific bodies, the names, the cause of death, the next of kin verification from China to the exhibition or any exhibit. None of that. None of that is known. So now we're going to kind of go into the rise of how this all became commercialized.
Yeah. I was just having a thought. I was not zoning out. I was just thinking about something so upsetting because I'm like, if it is a matter of an unclaimed body because they only had 48 hours to realize that their relative may have been missing and find them and then identify them and all those things, you could find yourself in a bodies museum and not even know that you're looking at a relative.
Your sister or your dad or like your best friend. Isn't that so fucked up? I knew exactly what you were going to say because I had the same thought.
Yes, like because there is no identifiable feature, obviously. Like, I wonder what the statistics would be on that of like how likely it is that it's someone that you know.
Well, solely based on the fact that just the sheer size that these exhibits have become. I mean, we're defying odds every time we step outside, right? Like I can think a couple times off the top of my head where I'm like, oh, this is like crazy that this happened.
Yeah.
And how I ran into this person or how this specific thing happened at this exact same time. Like those synchronicities, right? Of like when you're writing a word and it says it in the song at the same time. That happened to me yesterday. Like we're defying odds constantly. So I can only imagine that this is, somebody do the math. That's had to have happened before because there are, when I tell you, tens of thousands of bodies at this point, it's unknown just how many bodies. Because you got to think, the ones that make it to the exhibit, we don't even have the numbers because everything is so unknown. I can only imagine that there are plenty of bodies that didn't make it to the final exhibit that were
you're so right.
Like where the fuck do all those bodies go that are like, oh, this one, Ted
this
over
one had
here,
ugly veins.
Yeah, Ted over here didn't cut it.
I'm cracking up thinking that this would be my spin class eulogy. You know what I mean? This is when I would be like, you are all defying odds every day. You could be in the bodies museum right now. But you're here and you're on this bike and you're crushing it.
You are crushing it. You are not plastinated.
But if that's what you want to achieve, you can do that.
Manifest that plastination, girly. That's so fucked up. Forgive us for our sins. Well, we're going to go to Atlanta. Are you ready?
Yes.
So Premier Exhibitions is founded around 93 by Arnie Geller. It's an Atlanta-based company. It specializes in for-profit entertainment exhibitions, not academic.
That is an important distinguish. Yeah. Okay.
Not academic.
I copy.
Only education.
Yeah.
I mean, whoa. Only
Not
entertainment.
education.
Whoa. So Tom Zahler, Premier's president of international exhibitions, he oversaw global expansions of Bodies, the exhibition, and he managed all the logistics of the partnership with Chinese suppliers. So the source of this Bodies, the exhibition, was obviously, as we've previously discussed, partnered with the Dalian Hoffman Biotechnique. So this is Sue's, his company, out of Dalian, China. In 2008, the New York Attorney General came in and was like, hey, something's a little fishy. This is interesting. What's going on? So they found that Premier could not verify, surprise, that the bodies weren't executed prisoners. And the Attorney General required them to post disclaimers and offer ticket refunds to objecting patrons. But marked the first government acknowledgement of potential human rights abuse in such exhibits.
But okay.
Yeah.
Even before that happened, which is okay.
Yep.
Was how do I want to phrase this? I am less concerned. Stay with me here. I'm less concerned about if they were executed prisoners than I am the fact that that still contributes to the overall question of, can you identify a single one of these people?
Right.
But I guess, I think this is why I'm having a hard time with like, well, we'll issue refunds if you have a problem with that, because wouldn't you have a problem with the fact that these are potentially all unclaimed people?
Yeah, it's irrelevant to me if they're prisoners or not.
Correct. It's like, regardless, you don't know who they are. Why is that
the part that is being clung on to? It's that they are unidentified persons.
Correct.
Period.
You are not their next of kin.
No.
Their next of kin did not release them to you and say, plastinate them. They would have loved that. Like, so I'm like, on the one hand, good that you're asking a question. And okay, cool that you're requiring refunds. It's the wrong question. You got to go up a couple more levels.
Yeah. You know what it really like highlights here is the dehumanization of prisoners just in general.
Very true.
It's like, that's the first thing I thought of. Like, as I was as I was doing my notes and everything, I'm like, oh, this keeps coming up that they're executed prisoners. I'm like, why are we so focused on the fact? It's like, no, they're unclaimed bodies.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yeah.
Say it with your whole chest. Say it. And then...
As opposed to, I guess it's supposed to sort of suggest like, well, perhaps they were bad people. Yeah. Or though my thing is, are they saying it's that kind of criminal or more of like a political criminal, a war criminal? Like,
well, if they're executed, it's implied that they were sentenced to death, is it not? So if they were sentenced to death and they were found guilty in a court of law, stating that but then here's the other thing that the branch, right? What kind of things do you get executed for in China in the 90s?
Oh God.
I didn't get into that part. That's a whole other branch, but I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So around this time, obviously, human rights groups and journalists got very involved, and they linked the bodies by tracing whatever documentation could possibly be found to unclaimed bodies obtained from police or prisons. And obviously within that is the executed prisoners.
This is so crazy.
It's insane. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm holding on to that. Premier publicly admitted the company cannot independently verify that the bodies were not received from Dalian. We cannot independently verify that the bodies we received from Dalian were not those of executed prisoners. So
that's too casual of
super cash.
Yeah, like we definitely don't know who they are, but anyway.
So Premier starts to collapse because what starts to happen is there's mounting lawsuits. They start filing for bankruptcy, and then all the ethical backlash leads to the downfall. So Tom Zaller, who was the former premier executive, he then moves over into and he founded Imagine Exhibitions. Yet we have another name. They're real creative here. And it gets established in 2009, and it is also based in Atlanta, Georgia. So it continues this similar, what they're claiming is edutainment. So education and entertainment. So he's kind of like, oh, this is different because it's education and it's entertainment. So this is where other exhibitions.
So is Schoolhouse Rock, but these are very different subjects.
Yeah. So here's the other exhibitions underneath this Imagine exhibitions, right? Is Real Bodies, which is the new rendition of Bodies, the exhibition. So Real Bodies, which is what I went to, I believe. I'll have to double check. The Titanic, the exhibition, and Jurassic World, the exhibition. So it's pretty interesting. I'm going to say the one that to me jumps out there is Jurassic World.
Did they use real bodies of dinosaurs?
You know what?
It's the same thing. It's like, first it's the fossils, then it's veins, then it's muscle, then it's just actually a T-Rex and he eats you at the end.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you signed the waiver at the beginning and that was part of it. So yeah. So Real Bodies uses the same supplier. No surprise there. This is Sue's supplier. This is the Dahlia and Hoffman Biotechnique, which is just so funny.
I hope they're using the same supplier, though, because otherwise we just have a ton of people with dead bodies.
Yeah.
At least this way, it's one group,
contained.
Right?
Well, here's the thing, is that the technique itself, it's patented, right? So it's like, it's very secretive, conceivably anyways. And it's like, you can't open another facility doing the same thing because this von Hagens guy is the only one who knows how to do it. Do you know what I mean? So I would imagine it's kind of like, okay, this is a secret recipe and the secret way of doing things that's highly unethical.
But is he the only one that knows how to do it? Because they have a whole factory for it.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like Sue branched off, and that's why it's such a big deal, is because that's not something you're supposed to do when you're in business with someone and you have a patented concept. You can't then just like branch off and do it. But here's where to me, this is speculation. This is just what my wild thoughts took me, right? What are one of the reasons why, if someone branches off with your concept and your idea, that you couldn't then say, hey, he took my shit, this is wrong, I'm suing you, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that?
Well, I had a theory first that he may have been the first to patent it, but who's to say he actually invented it? You know what I mean?
It from some, he may have.
Well, he may have gotten it from Sue, right? That, I mean, who knows?
No, he definitely started it in the 70s.
Okay, so we don't think there's any possibility that he was just the first to patent it, that he stole it.
It's from my understanding, he's the one who made the formula. He's the one who figured it all out.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's like a more verified thing. Who's to say that there wasn't other people involved, obviously, or like that, you know, in the 70s that he didn't get like help from, you know, a chemist or whatever. But he's the one that in the 70s made this specific process and formulation of specific types of polymers and extracting the liquid from.
Okay, then I take back my conspiracy theory, because that was my first thought, was like maybe he ran off because he was like, this is actually mine, but never mind.
Yeah, I do think that von Hagens was actually the one who established it, but it just really is like, to me, it's like, okay, you would not make a big fuss. Of course he was upset, but you wouldn't turn it into a legal battle when half the shit you're doing is fucking illegal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously Sue kind of had him in a bind of like, yeah, guy, like, I'm going to go do this thing over here. We're going to have the same sorcerer and I'm going to do the same thing and I can get away with it because what we're doing is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like, call my bluff. Call my bluff.
Yeah, and it's like blackmail, you know? Again, obviously I'm getting excited because I'm like, I feel like I know that's exactly what happened, but that's not what we don't know that's what happened. Just speculation. So, obviously the same claims are here in this Real Bodies. Nothing changes. Unclaimed individuals who have died of natural causes is quote unquote what is said to be stated. And there's obviously no independent verification or donor documentation that has ever been released. So then around 2018 into the early 2020s, there's this renewed scrutiny around. It all comes right back around, right? Like human rights activists get involved, lawmakers call for closure, ethics scholars condemn it. And they refer to it as modern grave robbery. Investigators reveal that Dalienhofen acquired bodies via police channels. So, surprise, surprise, the police are involved. So, any idea? Well, I probably said it earlier, but we don't have a specific revenue available for this. It is suspected, just suspected, that the scale of the profit on these exhibits ranges in the tens of millions globally.
Whoa.
Each ticket is around $20 to $30. I think in the early 2000s, I remember it being about 25. I think it was like $25 just for a ticket.
Well, and with inflation today, that's like $1,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a full family meal at Chili's.
I don't know why I didn't even think about that piece though until now, because of course it's a for profit. It's for entertainment.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, there's multiple branches, there's multiple global entities, and bodies generate profit. Obviously, lots of exploitation going on here, and there's zero financial benefit or acknowledgement to any of the deceased or their families, obviously, because we don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah, because you don't know. Because that's the thing, too. It's like, if they knew, then those people could sue them.
Yes.
But there's no way to identify those people.
Nope. And there's no global oversight or human remains commerce regulations. So,
which is crazy. Because, okay, let's say that it was a matter of, it was a terrible, horrible killer, and the family knew that they were executed, and they said, I don't care what you do with him. I don't want to claim him. I don't want to do anything. I wash my hands of it. Let's say that happens. That's fine. That may account for one person. But when you get police involved that perhaps aren't even giving that option and are instead just saying, I have a body for you, I'm so curious if there are, or if anyone has looked up. I guess it wouldn't be like a missing persons case, because they wouldn't be, they're not missing persons, they're missing bodies. But I wonder what protocol is for that sort of thing.
Like, there isn't any, and that's what they're exploiting.
But I mean, I'm thinking again, even in prison, surely there has to be like some sort of notification of like, hey, executions today.
Right. This person is deceased. Yeah.
But I guess again, if we're thinking they're all coming from China, because that's what we're thinking, right? Like China and Russia still.
Correct.
Then I guess, that kind of throws that out the window too, because gosh.
I know.
Wow.
Isn't it? It's so
big. I just assumed that it worked just like if I wanted my body to be studied at a college, that it's just a registry.
That's what everybody assumes. That's what I assumed.
You're right. I don't want to go to a bodies exhibit. I don't want to give them my money.
I was like, you might feel a little bit nervous. So let's get a little bit into the different types of religious and cultural concerns here. Because
oh yeah.
So as you can imagine, of tens of thousands of cadavers, of bodies of humans, of people who had souls and lived and were walking on this planet and were earthbound, they had beliefs themselves. Of course, we don't know what they believed. We don't know who they are. But if we were to speculate, we're going to go through several different faiths and traditions here, and what their core belief is about burial, and then implications of improper handling and what happens if your body does not get that full circle. The whole rounded ethical consideration here is that when the deceased's body is displayed without consent or outside of their belief rights, it becomes spiritual colonization, a denial of their right to complete their life's journey according to their belief and worldview. So
this is so upsetting.
Is a case of spiritual colonization in life, in death, in ritual, in belief. It's deeply upsetting. So, in Judaism, the core belief is what I believe to be pronounced kavod hamet, honor for the dead. A body should be buried promptly and whole. The implications of improper handling are that display is a desecration, and it may prevent proper burial, and it violates all the forms of respect.
Do you mean display even like an open casket sort of situation?
Yes. I think so. That's the way that's
Wow.
up for I am not super familiar with Judaism, so
Yeah.
I'll have to fact check that,
But
but
if
that was
we're
my
assuming that that's what it
interpretation.
means. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we're
because it
going
says
from,
promptly and whole. Like promptly to me is like, no, we're not going to do any open casket stuff, but I'm sure there's also
yeah.
offshoots and variations of Judaism and just like Christianity, just like Islam,
Sure. But
Christian.
I'm just thinking like that's such a sort of mundane, kind of acceptable,
Yeah.
quote unquote, normal thing. So then
Mhm.
to say, like, we're not going to do that, we're not going to look at them in depth and to go, yeah, but what if we looked at all their insides?
Yeah.
That's such a jump. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in Islam, the body is sacred and it also must be buried swiftly, and mutilation is absolutely forbidden. That would include breaking of bones. Um, Breaking bones of the dead is like breaking bones of the living. Is like an example there.
Yeah. And I have a
Um,
feeling removing them is just as bad.
yes, and any display disrupts burial rites and could hinder the soul's peace in the afterlife.
I'm telling you, this place is so haunted.
I know it, and here's the thing: it's not just one place. I mean, this is global. They're just everywhere. So now we're kind of just jump into Christianity, and this is specifically with Catholic and Orthodox Christianity. So the body is considered, as we've heard many times, a temple of the Holy Spirit, and is to be treated with dignity and awaiting resurrection. And then any improper handling is exploitation that denies the sanctity and resurrection hope there, right? You can't be resurrected if you're not buried.
Yikes.
Death rituals are are crucial for the soul's release, also known as moksha. And any improper treatment or delay may trap the soul in permanent unrest.
I'm
And
saying.
then, yeah, we're going to do three more. So, Buddhism is that the body is a vessel, it's a compassion and right intention. Let me redo that. And in Buddhism, the body is a vessel. Compassion and right intention matter in death rites, and that any improper, the lack of compassion here in post-mortem handling may obstruct karmic transition. Mm-hmm. Indigenous, animist, and ancestral based traditions are that the remains carry spirit essence. Disturbing them can harm both the dead and the living, and that any display of a body is spiritual violence and it may anger ancestors and disrupt balance. Yeah. And our last one, Zoroastrianism, which is so interesting because I remember us being like, I don't know what that is. And now I
No, it's
know a
coming up
lot
again.
about I know a lot about it now. It's like the origin. It's like basically predates Christianity and is like the origin of Christianity. It's just so
Oh.
we'll get into like I have other cases and other things that I've been dabbling into and learning more and more about it. It's basically like the oldest religion, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so Zoroastrianism is core belief here is that the body is impure after death and it must not pollute earth. So ritual exposure is absolutely required here, and that any foreign or improper handling here violates the ritual purity and interrupts spiritual duty. Mm-hmm. So again, this just overall concept, we're just tapping into several different beliefs and core traditions here, and that it really is the manifestation of spiritual colonization.
You know what I wonder?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, especially in the ones that you were talking about, that it could like upset the ancestors.
Yes.
I would think, though, that the ancestors would be upset at the catalyst, like the person that did this, versus the body and the soul of the person on display. Like, I am hoping that cosmically there's some sort of recognition
Mm-hmm.
to sort of allow for an exception, because what a unique spiritual crisis to have, in which not at all by your own volition are you now having to go against every belief that you may have had. And for whomever is out there, up there, around there, I just would have to hope that they would be like, oh, we didn't think that this would even be a thing. We never thought that someone would take their body and take pieces of it apart and then display them playing chess. So
Yeah.
don't worry, you're all good.
Well, I think that this opens up a lot of curiosity around systems like policing, systems like prisons are still part of the culture that has been created. So would you then not still be found liable, say liable by ancestors, not liable, but would you still not be found responsible culturally for what has been created and what has been allowed communally?
Well, I don't know, because then you could trace that even further, and then it could just be about sin or wrongdoing. Because then it's like, well, you were already screwed, because if you, let's actually assume they did commit a crime, if you were rightfully arrested, right, and rightfully charged and rightfully convicted or whatever, then maybe it was already a problem. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah.
the ancestors were done with you at that point. It doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that like
we're really highlighting the difference between like what is the law of the land, right? And wherever you're at, and what has colonization or appropriation or just like this further and further and further, like this removal of spiritual practices that are supposed to be integral to part of the culture and to part of this like symbiosis and within subsects of culture. Like there's just so much consideration here. It's like it can feel very meta.
Yeah, and it does, right? Because it's like a body in motion must stay in motion, except for the one that looks like an archer in the bodies museum, because it's a body poised for motion. Like it's all.
Then you get right. You're talking about science. You get science involved, and then we're talking about technology, and it's like, okay, well, our ancestors, do they give a fuck like about the fact that you can be preserved in polymer? Like that's not anywhere in the Bible. You know what I mean? Like
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
at what point do they have to go, we're gonna have to flex because something weird happened, you know?
Well, too, I just thought about too is kind of like set aside the ancestral considerations. If we were to talk about like the curiosities around like, okay, what's a soul? What is
Yeah.
its right? Like if it's completely separate from ancestral practices, which I don't think that it is, but let's say for the sake of this exercise that it is. If you believe in something like um, reincarnation, and part of your reincarnation is the burial ritual, and you are suspended, your soul is suspended and doesn't have that access to complete that, to something like a soul, like it defies logic, it defies human understanding, it defies these levels of like meaning making that we're putting onto it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know how long they keep a body on display?
Here's the thing.
We don't know
There
anything, do we?
is as far as surprise, surprise. Yeah, we don't know anything. As far as I'm concerned, it's permanent. So
Because what
the
I was
same.
thinking was like, let's say at best, it's like a form of purgatory to be in this place. But at least if eventually it is, I hate to say disposed of, but I guess that's what it would be.
Yeah.
If eventually it is taken off display, how about that? Then at least I would hope, kind of take care of that. But if it is permanent, then
I know.
I don't
It
have a lot of
really
silver
brings.
linings.
Yeah, it well, it really highlights that unclaimed does not mean donated, right? So unclaimed is like, okay, there's this implication, there's no implication there that those are the same. It's kind of like this weird black hole of like, oh, well, oh, it's unclaimed, we can do whatever we want to with it. That's not what that means. Legal donation requires, as you've previously brought up in the beginning, explicit documented consent. And unclaimed often means that it's disenfranchised, impoverished, imprisoned, or invisible, right? There's nothing known about it. It's unclaimed.
Do we know how an unclaimed body in China, I guess, after 30 days would be handled?
No, but that's a great question. We should look that up. So it says unclaimed bodies are typically cremated and their ashes may be stored for a period of time before buried in a pauper's grave are handled accordingly to local regulations. Historically, burial was preferred, but cremation is now common in many areas, and some sources also mention specific, though controversial, uses of unclaimed bodies for scientific display and education.
So cremation is a standard practice in most provinces of China. They have a national cremation policy in urban areas to save land, but there's a fourth potential for medical or scientific use if approved. Before cremation, some unclaimed bodies may be transferred to medical universities for anatomy education or forensic institutes for research or training. But again, that's not education.
Entertainment, that is not the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah. So bodies turned into consumer experience, obviously. This commodified curiosity, which is so morbid. And it raises echoes of colonial exhibitions, medical exploitation, and basically the concept of human zoos, which is pretty gross.
Do you know what I just thought about though?
What?
You said oddity and it made me think, or you said commodity and maybe I heard oddity, but I love a taxidermed animal. I love a mouse that's been put on a stripper pole.
I know.
And I'm going, oh, uh-oh.
I know. This goes back to our conversation last time about the dead animals. Whenever you were talking about the bird and I was talking about the mouse. This was the prerequisite.
Yes. And also, hold on. In that first article that you sent me, there was a dog on display.
Yeah.
You telling me the dog was a prisoner?
Yeah, where the hell did they get the dog from? Yeah. Again, as I said in the beginning, this only presents more questions. So what does this mean spiritually? As we've discussed, in many traditions, death is not an end. It's simply a passage. It's a transition. It's like a transcendence. And so in this sense, the exhibition doesn't just exploit, it interrupts transcendence within that belief system. So we call them exhibits, but they were people, each with beliefs, loves, and lives that deserved a peaceful end. When science or art ignores consent, it stops being human. What we choose to buy a ticket for says something about what and who we're willing to forget.
Woof. Wow.
Yeah.
But it really does frame it so differently because, again, I would have bought a ticket before thinking that ethically everything was on the up and up.
Yeah.
And these people knew what they were literally signing up for.
And that's on manufactured consent as the consumer.
Period.
Wow. Yeah. I felt really passionate about this one. I've been thinking about this for years. Ever since I heard, probably, I think I was in high school or college, like the very beginning of college, when I read like a New York Times article or something that was one of the journalists, like the whistleblowers being like, or a whistleblower, and then journalists also getting involved with these are prisoners, or these might be executed prisoners. And I was like, oh, and then I just kind of held it in the back of my mind for a while. And then once I started, exploring everything, I was like, oh, wow, this is deeply unsettling.
And crazy too, to think that there was a moment when he was like, yeah, sorry, I'll return them. Oops, sorry about that.
Yeah.
And then it seems like enough time and distraction went on that it was like, okay, cool, we're back. That's fine.
Yeah. Enough, right? Like distance. There's enough like handing off stuff happening. Like we don't know. Yeah. So it feels really important to consider. It's like one of the things is like, okay, where's my money going? What am I contributing to? Where's my money going?
Well, because that's the other piece too. I would have thought absolutely that it was going to something educational somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And surprise, yet again, we don't know the inner workings of the financial stuff. There's actually, I did pull up I got into the inner workings of a web of all of their financials, and I was like, this is not going to be able to make it today. So maybe I'll post like some resources into what you can go that's publicly available to see where what's going on with their funding. And like,
I can't even get a line by line of what my HOA is spending money on. Okay. I have a feeling that these folks aren't just like turning over
information,
an itemized report.
And the benefit for them for exploiting, sacred human bodies is that, especially all the fuzziness that goes around international exchange, like if you're doing it internationally, it gets so tied up in like, oh well, if this is overseas or if this is in the ocean or who's, what's this, what's that. That's like one of the biggest loopholes is international trading, is like, oh
Yeah, and
well,
it seems like there's probably a lot of money greasing palms along the way,
oh, I'm
allegedly,
sure.
right? I mean, because
Yeah.
they still have to be transported.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
what's your cargo? Oh, don't
Yeah.
worry about it. It's like 100 bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are
And
you a school?
two,
No.
you have to be so well connected to the hospitals, to the prisons, to right all these spaces where people die. You have to immediately get them to the facility to plastinate them. 48 hours is not a long time.
Mm-mm.
So, anyways,
Wow.
if anybody believes in karma, the people who are responsible for this, it's like, well, look, you guys are bringing all this bad juju onto yourselves, and you'll have to answer for it another time. If not here with the justice system, maybe karmically the universe is gonna fuck with you, you know?
Do you know if what's his name, Haagen-Dazs? Do you know if he do you know if he has said that he's willing to have his body put on display when he dies? Didn't you say he's like 80 years old?
Ooh, that's a great question. Should we call him?
Well, I'd be really curious to know
Reach
because
out and ask?
I think that would say a lot if
I
he's
think
like,
that's a
no, absolutely
really good
not.
question. Let's do a quick Google search and see if he said anything. I can't imagine that he's out here taking interviews, but let's see.
No, he's probably in some like hyperbaric chamber somewhere.
I mean, okay, well, just after a quick Google search, it says, yes, Gunther von Hagens says he is willing to display his own body on exhibit, stating he wants to be plastinated and displayed at the entrance of the Body Worlds exhibit. Suffering from Parkinson's disease, he said his wife will plastinate his body and pose it in a welcoming pose, as reported in articles from 2011 and 2018. Let's see.
But
This one,
here's the thing, Jerry. Here's the thing. How would we know it's him?
how would we know it's him?
Because wouldn't it be such good PR for him to do exactly what he did? To say, yes, I'm even going to be put on display. I would love to be there. How would we know?
Oh, wow. So this is the Independent is stating, I wonder if those pictures were taken post Parkinson's disease. Now I'm like, okay, maybe this is like the consideration here. He's always changing his mind. A quote from his wife, he's always changing his mind about where he wants to be displayed. Before, he wanted to be cut into slices because he liked the idea of being in multiple places at once. Dr. von Hagen's Body Worlds has attracted controversy, and it is acclaimed that more than 47 million visitors have toured the world over the past 23 years. Yeah, okay. Here's the thing, too, is that it traveled from country to country, state to state. Like, the exhibitions were never, like, permanent. They just, one of the main places was Tampa for the Bodies World exhibit, and that's where the one that I went to, like, whenever I was really young. But I think that one is permanent, but a lot of them travel, and they're, like, temporary exhibits, and then they move from place to place to place. So that's also a consideration. It's like you're transporting all these things.
I don't know. I think this is
Oh, there's also a horse in one of them. Yeah, there's just so many. Yeah. And then the other article is The Guardian. So it's like, God, this picture. Look at this picture. I'm going to send this to you. This is creepy. Where are you at? A text from my neighbor. It's really funny. Just seeing the little peep through. It's like, oh, God, I didn't send that to her. She would have been like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. So, yeah, the two separate sources say that he wants to be plastinated. But yeah, to your point, it's like, how would we know if that's him or not? I don't know. Wow. The one in London, the Body Worlds exhibit is 2,600 square meters open to the public.
holy cow.
Yeah, it's huge. Wow. Apparently his wife was not very pleased about that.
Does she want to be plastinated?
I can't imagine. It's interesting. Anyways, so that's that. I just sent you that link just so you can see the article, and then I'll link the articles in there as well in our show notes. Yeah, I feel really it's just so important to think about where your money's going, what you're supporting. If something is assumed,
do you know what you're supporting? Because again, I'm over here like, well, I just assumed all these things because why in the world would I have thought that wasn't what was happening?
Why would you assume anything other than Good intentions.
Well, here's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
People are not drinking strychnine. It's an act.
Mm-hmm.
No one walked into a room and just started kissing feet. That was a farce.
Mm-hmm.
And he is absolutely not going to be the body on display, even though his nameplate will be there. And
these are really,
those are the things that I think.
And that's period. And that's on having
so
strong
good.
opinions.
This was
You know
really
what's so
good.
funny is I know we say this often. I thought this was going to be a shorter one, but we really got in it, and it.
Well, I had a lot of questions.
Yeah. Well, no freaking kidding. No, of course you did. Of course you got a lot of questions.
I had a lot of questions. This was so cool. This was a very interesting take too, not just on like ethics, but also on obviously faith and culture and belief systems, but also how all of those things can impact ethics. And wowie zowie.
And who would have thought that walking into an exhibit where you're looking at all different types of, I don't know, I guess, how do I want to say this? Who would have thought that walking into an exhibit that you pay for, you trace the origin and it's considered spiritual colonization? I just thought that was the perfect, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just like this manifestation of.
It feels like spiritual warfare. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways that there's multiple angles we could look at it through. And I'm so curious as to like the people who are listening, like you and I have a pretty good idea of what each other's belief systems are, but I'm curious for people listening what they believe. About like about if you when you pass, what what burial rituals and what things do you believe in that you wouldn't want to be interrupted, or would you be okay
and even
being displayed?
Even for atheists, because I'm thinking, even if you're looking at this and going, well, I don't believe in anything, who cares? You still probably know how you would like to be interred or not interred.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with faith or belief or religion.
And some people I know are kind of like, well, whatever happens in my body afterwards is whatever happens in my body afterwards, and I don't care. And it's like, well,
even if that thing is consumerism?
Yeah. Or like, would you consent to be, let's say you hate, again, if we pull out the golf example, if you hate golf, if golfing pisses you off,
and now
would
you're
you
perpetually
be okay
golfing?
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that would love to be golfing in the afterlife be.
What would your worst display be?
Oh, God, this is such a good question.
Mine would be doing arithmetic.
I was about to say doing math.
That would be mine. I would be like at a blackboard doing equations.
In front of a class doing
hell.
equations. Yeah, that's hell. Yeah, that is the highest tier of purgatory for me as well. Would be any kind of math.
What would be
specifically
your best?
Proofs? Do you remember doing proofs in school?
I have blocked out all math, and that's not even a joke.
It was deeply traumatizing. What the hell's her name? I can't remember her name.
What would your best pose be, though? Behind glass forever.
You go first.
I think like for it to be something really impressive, maybe like really athletic, maybe like an aerial artist or a gymnast or something.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Like in a cool pose.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say swimming.
Good.
So we're both in this like suspension, which is interesting. You're suspended in the air. I'm suspended in the water.
I'm doing a really intense back bend. You're doing a breaststroke.
Yeah. Well, all right, folks. Well, this has been a good one.
This has been crazy.
We'll
good
catch
job,
you
Jer.
next time. Thanks so much. Bye.
See you guys next week. Bye.